not to forget.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to We Know Reality TV. We are talking this week about Amazing Race Canada, Season 11, Episode 7, in which we go to the Thousand Islands, and we learn that Thousand Island dressing is more than just ketchup and mayo. Who knew? My name's Jessica Liese, and with me, as always, to break down what was giving and what we weren't buying, here's Dan Heaton. Hello, Dan.
Hello, Jess. Yes, I'm so more knowledgeable now about the elixir of the Thousand Island dressing, or as John called it, the Thousand Islands dressing, which confused me for a moment. I don't think that's how it goes, but maybe it's both. I don't know. But Jess, I have to say up front, this didn't feel like a serious leg. I just got to tell you, I don't mean people laughing. I mean, pretty early on, I was like, there's a weird lack of tension here. I think we're heading for non-elimination, and this time, correct, I think. Yes.
I saw some discourse online that said that people were thinking this felt like maybe they were supposed to go somewhere else and they had to come up with something at the last minute. And I don't know if I buy that, but it really was kind of everything we ironically love about Amazing Race Canada. We're going to be running around the main street of a small town with a local specialty that may or may not be the thing they're most famous for, and then we're going to do something completely off the rails that costs $3.99 to put together.
I got to say, though, the town crier, having the town crier read the clue is such Amazing Race Canada, more than anything I've ever seen. Multiple town criers. I want to give credit to both of them, and having the teams have to come back and listen to them. I mean, that is such, because, the U.S. will have them put on funny outfits. They do that very often. But the town crier run around and find ingredients to this delicacy seems like this is right down the middle for Amazing Race Canada. But I enjoy that. I like that about the show. And I just never got the sense that, I know that Nippy and Magoo thought they were getting eliminated. Don't get me wrong. Magoo felt so bad about what happened at the end. I know I'm jumping way ahead, but I never got the sense, and John had a terrible poker face, but even before that, that they're going to eliminate. The show just didn't seem to be packing in as much editing tension. Like, there wasn't a lot of and sometimes they do that when a team's way out of it, but the whole time I feel like this was just kind of a fun jaunt, and that was about it. Let's go, let's do these fun things. Some of them were fun, some were a little boring. And, I had to remind myself, a day later, I was like, what did they do second? Oh, yeah. They wrote down some stuff. But, but I think it was a fun episode, Jess. I actually don't mind. I'm to the point now where I'm like, this felt like the right time to keep all the teams when we only have 6 teams. And, so I think this was a good time for it.
Yeah, and I think I would argue there's some tension itself in, is there going to be a non-elimination or not? And it's one of the things I hate about Amazing Race US. And I know this is controversial. I think some people would vehemently disagree with me on this point. But I think keeping the non-elimination legs in there and knowing that there might be a chance every time you're running keeps everybody in it. Especially on Amazing Race Canada, I kind of feel like if you knew you were getting eliminated and you knew you were in the back and you knew there was nothing you could do about it, what is to stop you from sandbagging it? I'm tired of this. We'll just take a penalty and wait for John to come and put us out of our misery. I think Amazing Race US has lost a little bit of tension because every week somebody's getting eliminated. There you go, whatever. There's some mega legs in there, which are kind of the easy way to skirt around that. But I think having it stated up front that you may be eliminated and not that you will be eliminated, I think it's like you also, if you love Nippy and Magoo, which of course we do, we can be hoping for them. And they might be sure they're getting eliminated, but we know there's a grain of hope because we're sitting back with our objectivity and we're thinking, well, it's been a while since we've had one of these, and it would be a good time to do it. And I don't know, Dan. I can't actually tell anymore if I have just been watching so much Amazing Race. My 10,000 hours of Malcolm Gladwell expertise is in watching television. And I think I've just watched so much Amazing Race that I identify the beats a lot more readily than somebody who hasn't been doing this for a job for 13 years. But I don't know, like maybe we're just experts. Maybe we know. Maybe it didn't play that way to other people. I kind of think this one was one of the more obvious ones, though.
Yeah, I think also just because they really leaned into the silliness. But to your point about US, yeah, because the thing is, I think what got people annoyed is when you would have these seasons with like 10, 11 teams, three or four, and three was the most common non-elimination legs. And it always felt like that third one was too much. It was too much. Where this season of Canada, we have two, which I think is like the perfect ideal, one or two, where it's like, I know this was a keep on racing, but same idea because, they gave out a prize, everybody stopped. But I think two is the right number because I feel like there's a possibility. Like even this time, I went, okay, I think this is non-elimination, but because I wasn't sure, I was about 90% sure. But even that 10% adds a little tension for me because I'm like, there was one time this season where John was given the really fake face. I mean, that's bad. That's mean on John. I shouldn't say it like that. John's poker face wasn't good, and then he eliminated someone. And I was like, what? So there's always that chance that it's different. And I think though, yeah, if it gets too certain, like to 100%, as viewers, we're just kind of like, we better hope these tasks are funny, which they were. But when they're not, then it's just like, who cares? But no, I think the two most common types of non-eliminations, not to go too far on this road, are really silly legs, or when they're so like there's some sort of new place, like the US, new country. That's when you do the big leg. That's always what happens. It has to be something unique. And this week's uniqueness was just silliness, Jess.
Yeah. I love the silliness. I love it when they get super silly. And I understand that, your mileage may vary, but there's so much. It's everything I love about the Amazing Race when somebody has to wear a ridiculous outfit and dress an animal and bear the judgments of a sassy judge. Those are like the top three best things about Amazing Race right there. And we did all of them in one single task.
I also love the fact that even though there's tension, their partners could not keep it together. Nippy thought Magoo was the funniest thing she's ever seen. There was parts where they would cut over and like everybody's laughing. And like, that's kind of nice where it's like, yes, teams still want to finish first or second or third or whatever. But, especially given some of the tension from like Jesse and Jonathan and everything earlier in the leg, seeing these teams just like enjoy the fact that they're doing the most ridiculous thing on national TV and still kind of competing for, all these prizes. It's fun. It's better sometimes. I don't know if I'd want every leg to just be like, how zany can we be? But when you mix it up, I think there's a good balance.
Yeah. Yeah. I like, we've got to have ups and downs, emotional ups and downs here. So let's go up to the top of the leg because this is also something I've got a hot take on this as well. I think the token swap is awesome. I'm just going to say it. I think it's social game, it's strategy, it's scavenger hunt, and it causes drama, and I'm here for it.
I agree. I like it. And because in a way, it also kind of even pokes holes in the, excuse me, we saw the three teams were kind of working together against the other teams. We saw different combinations there, but it kind of pokes holes in that because these teams, basically everybody but Jonathan and Jesse and Evie and Blake were like, we're all going to work together against them. And then they're like, oh, but they have the tokens that we want. Yeah. So, but it's still weird because, I mean, there was a few interesting things here. One, the whole leg, you saw this, where teams are just are just done with Jesse and Jonathan winning money and winning prizes. And I don't think they dislike them personally, but there is some tension there. And you saw it here where the other teams are like, what? It's almost like Survivor when the underdogs are like, we're done with these guys. Why don't we all just team up and take them out? Now, granted, Amazing Race, it's a lot harder to do that, though we'll see next week. But the tokens kind of shifts everything around. And then you have a case too, where it's like, nobody had an easy road. Lacey and Celia just happened to find the two that were the right color. But everybody else finding it differently, especially with the E.B. Blake and Jesse and Jonathan, they looked at each other and they were like, I guess we got to work together. Okay. We don't really want to. And also I like the location of this too with I don't know, the location, if you were just finding random stuff and there wasn't the tokens, this location might be boring, but I found this really fun where there were all the different places. People are picking up furniture, you know, they're like, Magoo, you can't destroy the historical stuff here. But I don't know. I thought, and of course the bird is
The bird was
classic
classic, yes.
silliness.
But I feel like Magoo is one of those people, if you take him to an escape room, he's going to be one of those people that's just like smashing stuff to get prizes out of it. And somebody has to come on the intercom and be like, sir, you don't have to break anything to get the clues.
Yeah,
I thought it was wonderful.
He's a little spastic. It was, and I love that Nippy just kind of looks at him like, because I know that, you know, you can tell this is not the first time he's done stuff like this, even in life. And she's just like, no, please don't do that. Please chill. But yeah, so Grace and Joe would have had both of the yellow ones, but then there was a bird that distracted them, and that was right. The bird was basically guarding the token in a way, Jess. It was like the final foe, the boss level.
Yeah, you have to fight that monster to get your prize.
And they failed. But also interesting that Nippy and Magoo did not have to. And granted, I don't think, but they stayed and waited for them to try and help. Which, I mean, this happened. This is very similar to, we had Louie and Marie kind of do a very similar thing with another task where you had to find different items and walk around a place, but without pairing it, but very similar. And part of me again could say, well, they ended up finishing last. This impacted them, but I get it. These teams have bonded and they don't like the idea, especially Amazing Race Canada, just leaving teams behind.
Yeah, it's similar, I think, to when you're watching Great British Bake Off. And if you watch Great British Bake Off right after Survivor, it really sticks out to you. Like they're about to call time and people are running over. People that have finished their cake are running over and helping their neighbor, like put the last frosting on their cake. And it's so sporting and cooperative. And it's like, I think in something like Amazing Race, it's a little bit harder to grasp why somebody would do that. But on the other hand, this is the first task of the leg. They got a lot of time to make that up. If they can get the other team out of there quicker, then they can still have a prayer of maybe overthrowing the kings at the top. And indeed, we did see the group that ganged up at the beginning. And it's the first week that somebody other than Evie and Blake and Jesse and Jonathan have won a prize. I think that's worth noting. But I think we have called it out in the past where if you are really in danger of getting eliminated, you should not hang back and help another team. You should wish them the best and hope they find what they're looking for and get going. But also, this is Amazing Race Canada. They're going to do 53 other things between now and the finish line. And it even looked like there might have been a bunching point. Dan, did you clock this? It was nighttime when they were looking for the tokens. And then it was daytime. And were they there all night?
I have written a note to myself that said early morning ? Because when they first got there, it was dark. The helicopters were during the light. So yeah, either they started like right before sunrise, like 5, 6 a.m., whatever. But I don't know, because then they would have had to have traveled overnight. And I don't on the fuse board, which again, the teams that were 1, 2, 3, they split up, whatever. But that would have been there on the buses. Maybe it was an overnight bus trip. But the other odds are they all went to hotels and then they said, okay, you finish first. Every helicopter is 5 minutes apart or whatever. I don't know. Yeah. It could have been a variety of things.
So, that way you have like 4 extra hours to search for whatever you're looking for because you're not getting in a helicopter in the middle of the night. This is not like a city lights tour because what is even out there in the middle of the night? So, you can take all the time in the world because it's only going to be, you already know it's going to be 15 minutes.
Yeah, that's a great point. And also, I mean, the fact that they helped them, though, I know we can say, oh, well, Nippy and Magoo finished last, but Grace and Joe won the leg, like you said. So them being helped. But also, like you said, those two paired together, and then those two teams paired together again they helped each other with the helicopters, but later on, again, when the teams were doing the Thousand Island one, you had 2 different pairs. So I want to ask you this, because I know Jesse and Jonathan seem pretty annoyed that the teams were all working together against them. Like they just seemed done. And I'm not really picking on them. I'm just saying, what do you think? Because normally I go, oh, these teams working together. But I really get it this season because of how the teams at the top have done so well. I kind of get it. What do you think about watching all these teams work together kind of in tandem? I mean, basically, they all work together in every task but the last one.
Well, Dan, I think it's really interesting because this really parallels when I think about teams working together. I go back to Amazing Race US and I think about the Mine 5 and how angry everyone was about those teams working together. And I think the difference is the teams working together are in the back and everybody loves an underdog. So I think if I was Jesse and Jonathan, I might be a little salty about it. But on the other hand, it's kind of like, what else are you going to do? If you're back there and there's a team out front who's like Ricky and Cesaring their way all the way up to the top, what are you going to do? You have to use every tool at your disposal. So I don't hate it. I think it's kind of cool that even helping a team in the back, this team ends up winning. And I think it also shows that there's a lot of mixing up of the orders. And that's always my hallmark of, is this a good leg? Well, was the team in front the entire way? Or was the team actually in that it was in the back, the team that ended up winning? That's a great story. And you can't hate on that too much.
Well, yeah,
so I don't, maybe it's results oriented, but that's how I feel.
No, I agree, because you have these fused boards where they separate them by 15 minutes and they tend to not make a difference. I mean, no offense to Canada's favorite iced tea drink, or Canada's favorite drink, I forget. But regardless,
it's Canada's favorite iced tea.
But it's basically, there are some legs where splitting teams by 15 minutes, if all the tasks are kind of like the bike task last week, or just like do this thing that everyone can do just fine. That 15 minutes makes a big difference. If you have things that actually require some skill or some different, like there could be a wide variety, a team could do something in 20 minutes or an hour or whatever, then it's like, sure, split them up early. I don't care. That's cool. At least to give some, that's the only reward those top three teams got for finishing higher last week. Well, besides the team that won all the money and everything, but everything else, besides that. So, but like Lacey and Celia finishing third, got that 15 minutes, didn't really seem to matter, though they ended up third at the end. But it's nice to see, it makes it so much more interesting. And like you saw the moment with Jesse and Jonathan, they were second, and then they Jonathan thought he knew where to go, and they got a little lost. The other teams all followed each other, and then you saw the arrow, they went down to last. So I don't know. I guess we talked about the tokens. Next up was what I think was the real stinker of the episode as far as TV excitement, which is watching teams fill out a clipboard.
Yeah, yes. There wasn't even any math, Dan. They didn't even put math in it. It's just like, let's go find the numbers and write them down.
Really boring to watch for me. For them, I'm sure it's fine. And I know the trick mostly was finding where the hours were. And again, the most interesting thing was teams working together. But wow, I think they felt like they had to do this helicopter ride, because I'm like, in the middle of this leg is going to be really boring. If we at least got to have all the teams on the helicopter going, this is cool, woo, before that. Because if not, I don't mean to be too down, but luckily, again, only like 5 minutes. But they kind of yada-yada through a lot of this task, I think.
And lucky for us, they did. Nobody wants to see this. And again, it's another scavenger hunt situation. We don't really have to talk about this, Dan. We can pretend it didn't happen. It didn't even really affect the outcome all that much, except that you had a few teams collaborating, show each other where stuff was. And that's when you should collaborate. When everybody has to come up with the same answer, that's the point to collaborate. If everybody had a different helicopter, also, that's a much bigger task and much more expensive task if everybody gets their own helicopter. So I get that we had to have communal helicopters. I get it. But yeah, I think they threw that in there because they knew they had to have some kind of spectacle task, but they didn't have anything that involved actual risk or skill. And we didn't have anybody having to rappel down something or jump off of something. They're saving that all for next week, apparently. So yeah, we're going to move on. We're going to talk about what I think is the real missed opportunity of the episode. Why did we not have a detour called Dressing or Dressing, Dan?
You could have done it, actually. You could have done it with
I'm saying! dress a donkey or collect the dressing ingredients. They're both pretty low effort tasks, but it's right there, dressing and dressing.
Yeah, you would have had to have made the donkeys harder because I think the first one took a lot longer, unless you like couldn't find the sunglasses like somebody while holding it in their hand. But so this one, I mean, in what again, it's like we've talked about, it's kind of this combination where it's like a little bit of memorization, but mostly navigation. What I found really interesting here, Jess, is Evie and Blake take their car and no one else does. And at first thought, I went, is that allowed? Because a lot of times the show, with something like this, will make them walk, and the show didn't. It didn't make them do it. And granted, it didn't. I mean, if they had done even okay on the roadblock, they would have won the leg because of this. It's really the difference. You had the teams working together, but it was them driving while everybody else ran all over town.
Yeah, I was shocked that if that was allowed, why wasn't everybody doing it? And we did get we got some great insider info, and maybe we should just talk about this now. I got once again, I had a local slide into my DMs with some insider info about what the town looks like. And I want to give a big shout out to Gwen Stevenson, who gave me a few tips on this, and it kind of supports like why didn't everybody drive. But she says the town hall and sites to pick up the Thousand Island ingredients are all within very easy walking distance. You can see Laverne's restaurant in the background in some of the shots from the town hall. Joelstone Park is maybe 15 to 20 minute walk away from the general store, the two furthest apart. It would be easier to drive and park, especially at that time of year when it's off season. Joelstone Park has a small beach area that is sheltered. Shortly past that, you get into the St. Lawrence River that can get choppy and rough, especially if it's windy. I wonder if that's why the distance they had to paddle seemed short. So that, 15 to 20 minute walk is not that much, but still, if there's nobody there, if it's tourist off season, you can just like zip around town. You're going to find parking. It didn't make a lot of sense. I guess Evie and Blake kind of needed that extra time in the end. And if they'd won the leg, I would have been a lot harder on the other teams.
Yeah, because it ended up everybody was able to catch up pretty much at the roadblock. But I don't know. This is interesting. I was trying to think. I mean, I love some of the descriptions of like, I'd written some of them down. I should look at, but like the ketchup and mustard or ketchup and the fabulous condiments, I will just say, and just all the ridiculous statements they use to describe just salt and pepper as like the most amazing thing we've ever had in our lives, and just ridiculous stuff.
Okay, and we're leaving out the headline. We're leaving out the headline. Onion Man. Yeah, that was inspired. I don't know what is in the water up in the Thousand Islands, but this task had so many hams. Like, is the Thousand Island dressing, do they put it on their ham? Because these people you put the dressing on anything to chew up that scenery. We had so many people that were just committing to the bit in such a fervent way that you had to love them.
Well, it took me a minute to realize that was just one of the areas. It seemed like that somehow you all ended up going there last, at least according to how it was edited. But you have this, and hey, we talk about them sometimes being on the cheap side. I mean, they didn't have to pay these people. I'm sure they were volunteers, but they have the whole crowd of people. Then you got this wonderful opera singer with like, here are your onions. And then later was like, at some point he kind of mixed it up and was just like, and yours too, or something like that. And, so he was mixing it up. But I love how the teams came in and they were just like, what is even happening? And he's holding up these onions in this bag. And it's just like, oh, I love it. I love it, Jess, because it's like so easily they could have just gone and picked up onions. But no, I think the show again was like, okay, helicopter's a little boring. Going and picking up. I know we have the town crier. That's fun. That's gold. But okay, they're going to get this stuff. That's not fun. What can we do? Let's sit here and think about this, Jess. What can we do to kind of spice it up? Don't they have an opera singer there that we know? Yes, that's gold. I don't know, Jess. How did this happen?
I think every small town has community theater people. And I would guess they probably just went out into the community and said, okay, who likes to act? We will cast you. You can be on Amazing Race Canada. It'll be a big boost. everybody in Canada loves this show. Like if you played Joe Cable in the community theater production of South Pacific last year, you are definitely going to want to be on Amazing Race Canada, right?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
if you're not like earlier when they got all those people to act like they were sick and you're you're talking about your diarrhea and everything, these guys get better choices at least.
What would you rather sing about, Anne? Onions or diarrhea?
That's a tough one, actually, because the diarrhea person was really funny. I gotta say, this guy's up there, and I mean, they had to make it a little more fun. The thing is, it's not even that much about like, oh, who in this task. All I remember about this task is the guy talking about the elixir of salt and pepper, and then this guy. I'm just like, oh my gosh, he's up there with Kazoo Man from a few seasons ago.
Oh, I just watched that episode again because that was the Lethbridge episode.
Oh, right. I was trying to find that clip on YouTube. Not out there, Jess. Not out there. The clip
It's
of the
season 8, episode 3.
But yeah, I mean, I should also mention before we get to the roadblock, we had another moment with a super, super excited Ika and Dimitri fan that they just happened to go.
That was amazing.
And she congratulated them on their wedding 11 months ago, I've been told. But yeah, that's always fun. Again, just like meeting, because we haven't really seen that. I mean, the obvious example is the Rob and Amber season 7, where everybody was like, oh my gosh, this is the first time we've seen it. And I'm sure it's happened other times. It just hasn't been related to the leg. But I hope she gave them good directions, because she actually gave the directions that all the teams followed and apparently got there ahead of Jesse and Jonathan.
I have to assume this happened in season 2 of Amazing Race Canada. I think Megan and Natalie got a lot of that. Like people would be like, oh my God, it's Smear and Mickelson. Because they were at their peak of fame at that point. But yeah, it's been a minute since we've seen that happen. I wanted to point out my own offspring had a question about the Onion guy. And I think this is an important note. How did everybody resist the urge to sing back at the opera guy? And are we sure that nobody did?
Well, I think if someone did, we would have seen it. Because, I mean, come on. Like a thank you or something.
Exactly.
I think they're all too stressed. They don't have time for this. They got to get back to the town crier or back to the guy who gave them the snack then. Which looks like veggies and Thousand Island dressing, I think. Because at first I was like, did they just give him a big vat of dressing?
Get 2 straws?
Yeah, it's like, okay, spoon or whatever. But then I did see Jesse and Jonathan had some sort of vegetable that they were dipping.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I think if someone had done it, I mean, teams kind of did their usual, you walk on stage and you're like, yay! But that was about all they did. We didn't get any singing, at least that I noticed.
I think more Amazing Race legs should involve a mid-leg snack. I think this would also, if we're doing memory task, what if somebody handed you a snack at some point on every leg and then you had to put the snacks in order at the end? I mean, I'm giving these ideas away for free, Amazing Race. Go ahead and take me up on them.
Pretty good.
Yeah.
We've seen it with like they give them poutine. Or we've seen sometimes, I think they gave them like a big thing of bread once. I mean,
butter tarts, beaver tails, Nanaimo bars.
You can do it. I like that, and I think teams would remember because they would be like, ooh, that one wasn't very good. Or, oh, that was great or whatever. I mean, the show would never show them saying that. I mean,
no.
You can't put on the food people. But they would remember that. If you really wanted to add to it, you could also have them put up like all the fuse boards or like where they got the boost or, talk about
where did they make you? Where did they make you pound a boost?
Talk about doubling up. So I had this thought. I know I'm jumping ahead, but at the end of the leg, we have, instead of it ending at the keep on racing, it ends at the boost task. And I'm like, they did that because, well, one, you could say it was the tension of the YouTube vote. I'm like, no. They did that so they could show boost twice. They'll show it this week and they'll show it next week. We need as much boost ingredient stuff as we can get, Jess.
Yep, this is like the same reason that, you might get archival footage of an actor in a show. It's because their contract forced the show to put them in one more episode.
Yeah, it's like they found a way. They're like, we'll put you in 2 episodes. It might be 3 minutes in each one, but that 2 episodes, Boost, we're going to learn all about your healthy ingredients. But I guess, should we get to the donkey, though?
Yeah, we need to talk about the donkeys, because I think it was Onion Guy and donkeys those are your takeaways from the episode. We need to talk about this task, because I think we got so much mileage out of such a dumb task. It's like that is the most bang for your buck. They just went into Canadian Party City and they cleaned it out, and then they made people put it on donkeys. And the entire thing, like, we would still be here complaining about it. Except then they got 2 people, not 1 person, but 2 people who were so committed to the bit that it beggars belief. It makes the Onion Guy look like he's just kind of interested in being on The Amazing Race Canada.
Oh my gosh, the judge, he had so many lines. That guy had spent some, I mean, it was hilarious too. I don't want to give short shrift to the photographer, because it was a lot of fun too. But he was just like, so many different ways to say no. I mean, just, yes, 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 but no. It started out pretty simple with like, this isn't what I'm looking for, or choices were made. Unfortunately, they were the wrong ones. It's giving, but not what I'm buying. And then I love, of course, at the end. Well, I don't know if I can say this on YouTube, where he called out the name of the donkey in a different way, But oh man, Jess, what can we say about this guy? I mean, sometimes you're like, are they overdoing it? No. This leg needed this guy.
This man was a star. And honestly, if I'm Onion Guy and photographer lady, I am mad, because this should have been my moment, and this guy just steals the entire leg out from under them.
It's not a pass, it's a nay.
Yeah,
I don't think he did
a bray or a nay.
I think I overdid a little bit. Also, I like how Magoo told the donkey that he loved the donkey at the start. That was nice. It didn't help him find the sunglasses.
Donkey didn't love him back.
No, but I mean, oh man, Joe too. I mean, everybody looked ridiculous. Magoo, I mean, with that, it looked like we had several like they're out of bad 50s sci-fi movies. Magoo had that hat, that helmet or whatever on. Dimitri was all silvery, but Joe with the straw outfit or whatever you want to call it. I don't even know. It was like the Cowardly Lion.
It was almost like a bath mat. It was like a rainbow bath mat.
Oh, I used that picture for like the call out for questions, and Joe just like pretty laid back guy, but it didn't take much for him to ham it up taking the pictures. But man, it's hard to get through this, Jess.
It's really, I think, and I think I have to give you credit for helping me realize why this is such a fun dynamic on Amazing Race Canada. But I think taking the goofiest person in your Amazing Race cast and making them do the goofy task is fun. But more fun is taking the least goofy person in your cast and making them do the goofy task. So Magoo doing this task, very fun. Joe doing this task, comedy gold.
Yeah, because Lacey knows she's got the right tone.
She's a performer.
Yeah, I mean, and Dimitri's been on Big Brother. He's got it too. But yeah, and Jesse wasn't at top form because he was stressed out. Yes. But I get it. But yeah, Joe was the star. And even, I think Blake is the one who did this. Blake did fine, but again, he was a little nervous because he couldn't find his last thing. But and even though they did finish second, but Joe, I mean, star making material here from Joe. He should just dress like that the rest of the race.
Yeah, I mean, really, really earning that first place finish there. I feel.
Yeah,
I did like Dimitri's outfit the best though. I felt like the other outfits were kind of thrown together. They were pretty random. Like, in fact, you had the same pink bike helmet on the donkey in one costume and on a human in the other costume. But this one had a whole theme to it. Like, I feel like the silver outfit was the only one that somebody really put some thought into.
Yeah, and Dimitri was having fun with it too. That's what I always like too, like I mentioned. Yes, there's tension, But I mean, they're in fourth or whatever, and he's just having a blast. And Ike, I think, thought it was hilarious and just good stuff. It's just there wasn't that much. I think the two big things were Jesse didn't realize that the bow ties he needed were on his hat. And then Magoo wasn't understanding. I was actually a little confused by the picture about what Magoo was actually supposed to do, because they had the fake donkey head, and I thought he had a donkey mask he had to find. But no, it was sunglasses.
Weird.
Yeah, it was very weird.
Yo, dog, I heard you like donkeys. Here's a donkey
put
for your donkey.
Head on a donkey head. But
talk about a hat on a hat, Dan.
Yeah, they also did the whole thing where they were strip down to your skivvies, and they had this weird black underwear they all had to wear, which maybe they always wear all that. I don't know.
Does Amazing Race Canada provide underwear?
I don't know, but they were all kind of wearing matching underwear in a way or something. And also, it seemed like, just correct me if I'm wrong, it seemed like every time they guessed, they would have to go back and take the clothes all off, because they couldn't just go back, swap one thing out, and come back. They seemed like they were constantly taking off and putting on clothes. Not from the donkey, but from themselves. I didn't totally get all this.
Yeah, I think it would stress the donkeys out if you had to keep undressing them and dressing them. So I think that was the smart move. But I also think it adds a degree of difficulty to it, because you can't just go back and swap one thing and put something else on.
Yeah,
I feel like toward the end, we saw Magoo doing exactly that, but I don't know.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know if that was a rule, or if people just wanted to start over, or if that was guidance. You may want to do that or something. Or maybe again, when a team is last, and if maybe the show just kind of is okay, just do that or whatever, you're good.
Yeah.
So sometimes they do that with dancing and stuff too. So
Yep. Well, yeah, this was. I thought it was an interesting choice to end it on a cliffhanger, a literal, a ropes course hanger, if you will. Which also, nothing says budget operation like going to a team building ropes course.
Yeah, at least they didn't make themselves untie each other with a big knot, because that's a fun team building activity.
Yeah.
But yeah, so the task that there is another task technically for this leg, though. It was, you have to somehow, one person goes on the ropes course, finds all the ingredients to boost. A lot of ingredients they had to find. I didn't, and calls them out, and then they have to write it down. Or memorize it. And then the big kicker is, when they're done, you take the zip line to the U-turn boat. But also, there was some other thing. I think whoever finishes first gets slightly ahead of everybody else. I forget. There were 2 flights or something. So there's a lot of things. So the goal, everyone gets to vote, but you get there first. But again, at some point, they're going to bunch the teams in the future because of the U-turn vote. Well, maybe they don't have to.
No, they don't. You vote, you keep going.
Yeah. It's not like when John stopped them in the first time. They don't have to do that.
There might be a layover so that you can make sure that everybody has voted by the time the team gets to the U-turn board. I wouldn't be surprised if there's an overnight involved somewhere with a boost sign-up board. And then you get to mention boost twice. Well, it would be a fuse sign-up board. We got to have fuse and boost, right? Incidentally, I did not have the chance. I saw a fuse iced tea in a vending machine when I was in Canada, and I should have bought it, just to drink it the way we did the Guru. But I don't know that it's that different from the fuse in the States. So I didn't bother, but maybe I was missing out because it is allegedly Canada's favorite iced tea.
I suspect it tastes like every bottled iced tea tastes.
You're drinking corn syrup. Yeah.
Yeah, it's super sugary, and it tastes like the bottle or can or whatever, which not my favorite thing. My favorite thing, John.
I'm an iced tea person, but I like it straight up. I don't want anything in it. And I hate it when I buy a bottle of iced tea that just says, just tea and nothing else. And then in small print, but also it's 50% sugar. I hate that.
Yeah. Even stevia, it's just it doesn't taste right with tea. I don't know. It's not great. But back to the thing. So we got a U-turn vote here. Jonathan already says he knows they're getting U-turned. I agree. But what about the second team? Because the chalk pick is Evie and Blake.
Right.
But we have seen them repeatedly not get passed, not get U-turned. And There was also an interesting shot in the preview of someone crying that I'm not going to mention who it was in case
You
don't want
could
to be
mention
spoiled.
it, Dan.
Okay.
Previews are canon.
Ika was crying in the preview. I'm just gonna say.
Ika and Dimitri have drawn a lot of fire for a team that's in the middle of the pack consistently.
It's weird because if you look at the results, I mean, Evie and Blake have won 2 legs. They finished second twice, and then they have a 4th, 5th, 6th. Ika and Dimitri, I apologize for the reading of Wikipedia, but Ika and Dimitri, 2nd, 3rd, 3rd, 4th, 4th, 5th, 7th. Now, granted, we've got quite a lot of 2nds and 3rds, and only 7th was in the opening leg when it's 7 out of 11 and whatnot. Since then, they have not been lower than 5th. But Evie and Blake haven't been lower than 6th and, have won several legs and seem to get roped in together. It could be them, but also there's weird strategy here because you have 6 votes. You want Jesse and Jonathan to be voted. How do you figure out that math? Because it's going to be like a 3-2-1 because Jesse and Jonathan, you assume, are the one, but if they vote for Evie and Blake, maybe Evie and Blake aren't going to vote for Jesse and Jonathan. They're going to vote for somebody else. Then all they got to do is get one more team to vote for somebody else. It's tricky.
Yeah, it is tricky. 6 is a weird time to have a U-turn vote. My kid offered something that would make the U-turn vote more interesting. And again, we're just giving these ideas out for free, but George would appreciate a credit. But he wants to know, why does every team have to vote as a team? What if everybody got 2 votes? Each person got their own vote, and you could choose to vote with your partner, or you could choose to vote for somebody else. Then you get into that, Stephen Fishbach in Cambodia trying to split his 2 votes on somebody, and it could be interesting. You could get people arguing about who to vote for.
That Fishback one still bothers me.
It still bothers me.
I still feel bad for him about that whole vote.
He was trying to 4D chess it the same way my kid likes to 4D chess everything.
Just vote on Abby Maria. Just do it.
Just do it. And he didn't do it. Yeah.
She's an agent of chaos. But no, I think that's really interesting. Also, because if you think about it, even if you agree, it may make sense to split it. If you're a Grace and Joe, for example, you want Jesse and Jonathan, but you may not just want to put 2 on them because others will. And you start, or a good example is Ika and Dimitri.
Right.
How do they do it? I think if it's them, I put 2 on Evie and Blake. I don't even mess with Jesse and Jonathan.
Yeah.
So it's interesting how you have to do that.
Yeah. And I want to point out something about Evie and Blake that I caught on really early, and this could be like me trying to 4D chess everything, or this could be something, this could be nothing. At the top, during the token trading, there was a lot of tricky editing, Dan. There was a lot of showing somebody on camera, looking at the camera, saying, we are forming an alliance against Jesse and Jonathan. The camera cuts away, and the ADR says, and Evie and Blake. So I wonder how overblown this is. And I think it seems to me that they are extremely well liked among the cast, and they're not even being clocked as big threats. But you do get a lot of these Frankenbites of people saying Jesse and Jonathan and Evie and Blake are threats to win, And I don't know if this is just they're trying to smooth over. This is what happened, and they're trying to tell you the story efficiently, or if they're trying to amp up the tension because it doesn't make any sense otherwise. I don't know.
It's interesting. I noticed that with Magoo at one point in this episode. Yeah, where he's like, we are number one. Our number one target is Jesse and Jonathan and Evie and Blake. And I was like, wait, that should be just one team, right? Why is it 2? And again, it didn't show him say and Evie and Blake, like you said. And Evie and Blake walk around when Jesse and Jonathan are in the room and are like, we're working together. It's so crazy. We're up against them. But I think people might think that they're just kind of like playing up to the camera a little bit. And that's the trick too. Do people just they're big characters? And most of the time when they talk about themselves being threats, it's just to John and it's just to the camera.
Yep.
And Ika and Dimitri, people like them too, but the big brother thing, I think, is always going to make people go, okay, they know strategy, or they're, and I don't think that I think they're good strategists, but I don't think that they're strategizing more than Evie and Blake. But it's like Evie and Blake are like, we're just having fun. We're just the fun team. We're brothers and we're fun. It's like, yeah, you always got to question what they're saying to other teams or what people are seeing. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting. It could still be them. This also, that Frankenbite could also be a setup for them actually getting U-turn next week and kind of just set it up where teams did it just kind of on default. But so far this season, Ike and Dimitri seem to be getting a lot more heat from other teams for these types of things. And it's probably only going to take 2 votes. It's really going to depend. Jesse and Jonathan are kind of the kingmakers in terms of who they vote for, assuming they don't end up just being the one. Whoever they vote for, if somebody else piles on, like I could see Evie and Blake wanting to go ask Jesse and Jonathan, hey, who are you voting for? We won't vote for you if you vote for Ike and Dimitri. And then Evie and Blake, knowing Jesse and Jonathan are going to get the votes from someone else. It doesn't matter. You know?
Yeah. I mean, I think if you want to make sure you're not the one who's U-turned, and as long as you are not Jesse and Jonathan, because don't even bother trying to make sure you're not U-turned if you're Jesse and Jonathan. But anybody else needs to just reach out to Jesse and Jonathan and team up with them and vote for whoever they want.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because Nippy and Magoo are voting for Jesse and Jonathan. That's one right there. You assume, depending on what Evie and Blake do, if they don't do that, they will vote for them. But if I'm Evie and Blake, I don't. But it gets tricky because Grace and Joe have kind of shown a willingness to kind of go after Ike and Dimitri more. I don't know. There's a weird scenario where it goes like 2-2-2.
Mm-hmm.
And then what do they do? I don't even know what happens.
God, what does happen? What if it ends up being a triple U-turn? Half your teams get U-turned. The front 3 teams get bumped to the back. You know, Lacey and Celia win the leg.
Yeah, Lacey and Celia. The funny thing is Lacey and Celia have been third 2 weeks in a row. They seem to be on the rise. They're not going to get U-turned.
No.
They're not. And they finished just as well. I mean, I know they had the one bad week, but I bet you their overall placement, I mean, they're a little lower because they do have 2 8s and a 7. So yeah, I'm not saying they should be, but it's just one of those where it's like, I mean, also you got to wonder, Grace and Joe all of a sudden win a leg. Is this a bad time to win a leg? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Grace and Joe were clocked as a target very early on, and then they sort of dropped to the middle of the pack. People forgot about them, and now they win a leg. This is probably the worst time to win a leg.
They got U-turn the first time too. The vote the first time was them, and part of that was teams saying, "Oh, they seem too serious," and that obviously is not the case. But it's going to be interesting. I don't know. I guess part of me does like the setup of us seeing it. I mean, I know they could have shown it in the preview, but because they showed it in the episode, it makes us think about it a bit more. But yeah, so I don't know. Beyond Grace and Joe won a trip to Lima, Peru. Welcome to the prize tracker and $10,000. Grace and Joe, good job. You have taken money away from Jesse and Jonathan and taking a year off of work. So yeah. We'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. All right. Dan, we got a ton of good questions this week, so I don't even know where you want to start.
Let's see here. Oh, here's a good one. Brandon Harder asks, do you think the finale will have 4 teams based on the preview for next week? Now, it has in the past. We've had 4 teams. And next week, John says the term, the semifinals, which I don't really love that as far as semifinals is really like in a tournament. There's like 4 and they cut to 2. That's not really, but Johnson's semifinal to me implies second, like basically penultimate leg where someone, because we have 6 now.
Mm-hmm.
I guess if it's the he says teams try to get into the semifinals.
Yeah. So the teams try to get to the final 5.
Yeah. Final 5 is semifinals, and you assume final 4 is the end. So, and I don't know if there's 10 episodes, and I apologize for not knowing this for sure, because even though you can trust Wikipedia sometimes has a number and then adds another number at the end. But in theory, if there are 10 episodes, there has to be a final 4. If there are 11 episodes, then you have a shot at 3.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. You know what? Googling when is the Amazing Race Canada finale really doesn't help us.
Shouldn't that give you something? The AI summary.
It told me, AI summary told me when last year's was, and it's like, You got that from me. You know when that happened because you probably looked up what we said about it.
I guess let's just wait and see. But I think the odds are pretty good because
Yeah.
of what John said and because do have precedent where I know 2 seasons ago we had a Final Four, the one with Brendan and Connor. I'm trying to
Mhm.
remember how they did it, what they did last year, if they had a Final Four or not. That I can look up very quickly here.
Okay, that exists on the internet.
Yeah,
we don't have to ask ourselves.
Amazing Race Canada 10. Look and see how many.
Yeah,
Okay,
we had
season,
4.
there were only 10 episodes last season. That's another precedent.
Yep.
So there were only 10 episodes last season. And so we've had 4 multiple times. I think the odds are most likely then, if we've had 4 the last 2 seasons, that we're going to have 4 again. You know, that seems most, because Lauren and Nicole, the twins, were 4th last season in the finale. So yeah,
yep.
I think that's what we're heading for.
Yep. They had a final 3 in season 9, but 8 and 10 were both final 4. So
okay, yeah, I sometimes get the seasons confused.
I
was
know.
thinking of the seasons with
I wouldn't have known that, to be honest, if I hadn't just watched a chunk of season 8.
Right, I knew 8. The Catherine Craig season had 4.
Yeah,
right?
It had 4 because
and that was 8. Okay.
Well, because George's winner pick was Brendan and Connor, and that was their season, and they made the finals, and we were all very excited, but then they did not win,
right.
and George just about quit making winner picks. But he has Jesse and Jonathan this time, so
he's in pretty good shape. I don't know, though. We did see them that at least the show made it like they were trying to ram into Lacey and Celia's canoe or kayak, which I think part of that was. And I love how they just kept falling over too.
Yeah,
they just kept tipping.
It's not their
thing. They're next to them, and they're like, "Oh!"
Just
let them be.
There's honestly nothing I like better than having a team that's way out in front suddenly be in danger of getting eliminated, and we find their Achilles heel. I think that's also a really classic Amazing Race trope that we don't see enough of.
Yeah, they were 5th this week, and it looked like they were down to it was just Jesse and Magoo at the Roadblock. So it wasn't even 5th like, oh, they almost finished 4th. They were definitively the bottom 2 teams this week. So,
yep.
Interesting. Okay, so what other questions should we answer, Jess?
Let's see. Well, got a question from Chris Chin on Facebook who says, who is your spirit NPC from this leg, Onion Opera Singer or Goat Fashion Judge?
The Goat Fashion Judge was the star of the episode, but if I think about just Amazing Race Canada, like if I want to say, what is Amazing Race Canada? And why do they do weird things? It's the opera guy. Because that's not even like weird, silly judges you will see in various iterations, though you're never on this level. So he's the winner, but the opera guy is just so random. That's what I like about that.
Yeah, it's just shoehorned right in there for no reason. Nobody was asking for that. Nobody associates it with the region. They're just doing it because they want to do it. Arguably, donkey fashion is also not something that the region is known for. It's not a Canadian staple, but maybe it should be.
So this question came up from Amanda Hart about how curious what happened with Jesse and Jonathan. They left ahead of another team but arrived last. Having lived in Kingston for a few years, fellow Queens alumnus, there are only so many ways to get there as there are 2 bridges across the lake and only one that makes sense. So I don't know if we can really technically answer this, but I thought this was interesting, Jess, about, because that was where Jonathan was like, I know where to go. I'm from this area or I've been here. And
pulling a season 1 Frank, right?
Yeah. And somehow it hurt them.
Yeah. Yeah. It looked like maybe it was just hubris.
Yeah. Like we don't need to go with the other teams. And then all the other teams are like, I did enjoy that how Ike and Dimitri were trying to get directions and everybody else finished and they're all just like, we can just follow them. And they just all followed them. Because sometimes it doesn't work. We're that a team that's a red light or whatever. And they talked about it. But the teams all got ahead that way. And that's also, you can see that really stressed them out when they had to actually do certain tasks. They just didn't seem on their game this week. And I think it was just everyone else working together against them. I think that's happened multiple times in the past few weeks. And that has to get in your head. Ricky and Cesar barely saw other teams. I felt like they were just like, they're out in front. There they go. You didn't see as much of it because, again, Amazing Race Canada does a better job. More tasks, more chances for things to flip around, teams together at tasks. That's where US sometimes, if there's a front runner, there may be legs, but they never see anyone else.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, you can spend $100,000 on one really flashy task, or you can spend $10,000 on 10 marginally less flashy tasks. And which one is going to give you a better race?
$10,000, Jess. Come on, we're talking like $500.
Okay, $500. You can spend $100,000 on one task, or you can spend $100,000 on your entire season.
Yeah, like when they went to that guy's basement, that was just like we're really showing off here. But I say this: how much you spend, look, it can look great for your drone footage or for your commercials that you show. That can look amazing. And US does a great job, especially in recent seasons when they've started using drones, of having these big sweeping shots of impressive things. But that doesn't always lead to better, fun, amazing race competition, I guess.
Yeah, I think that's fair to say. And, you know, we often talk about the difference between a task that is fun to watch and a task that is fun to do. And I think Amazing Race Canada errs on the side of tasks that are fun to do if they're given the choice.
Yeah, for sure. So any other questions we should answer here?
All right. Well, Mama's Pinky Toe on Blue Sky said, if Dan Heaton does not say, here are your onions, I will die. Thankfully, you did. So
check.
She's with us. If Jessica Liese does not say, I guess we're hooped, I will also die. I didn't say it organically, but I read the question, so I said it now. So please stay with us, Mama's Pinky Toe. And then the question also, should more nominal task judges be out and out actors? Not even a question. Yes, they should all be community theater hams who are chewing on the scenery in between takes. That's not a controversial opinion, and it's a hill I will die on.
I agree. I want them to have like 15 lines that they memorized that they can just keep using different ones. Much better than, sorry to everyone, sorry, that's incorrect, or I'm sorry, that's incorrect, or the ones where you can just use the insert where you hand the clue,
right,
or the insert that says that is correct. No, we want unique stuff that then the show shows the reactions of the people where they're like, yes, yeah, no.
Let them ad lib. Let them make it up. Like, let them go off script. If they're good, then everybody wins.
I agree. I'm 100% for this. More. Again, there is a fine line where someone is like way over the top and it's distracting. We have not reached that line yet.
No, we're far from that line. Like, tease us, toe that line.
Okay, well, hey, we're down. We've only got 3 episodes left, apparently, Jess.
Apparently, summer has flown by. If we're being honest, it's Canada's favorite summertime adventure, and of course, it's also our favorite summertime adventure. And we've really appreciated all of the feedback we're getting, all of the great questions and comments that come in every week. If you want to send us more of those, there are a number of ways to do it. You can reach out to us on Blue Sky. I am at Jess Liese. Dan is at the Dan Heaton. We put out a call for questions every week. Usually Dan does it because he's more on the ball than me, but we both see it. And we're also on Instagram. And I am at Haymaker Hattie, and Dan is again at the Dan Heaton. We have a robust Facebook community for Amazing Race RHAP stuff, and it's called Amazing Race on RHAP. You can get there by searching for that in your Facebook, or you can go to robswebsite.com/TARgroup, and that will shortcut you right there. When you apply to join the group, make sure you answer the questions. If you do not answer the questions, I will reject you, and Dan will reject you, and Mike will probably reject you, or he'll admit you, and then I'll yell at him. So make sure you answer the questions. That is the upshot of that. So thank you, Dan, once again for joining me this week. Anything else you want to plug? Anything you want to talk about?
Well, I do want to say, watch Survivor Australia versus the World. That's awesome. Also, Amazing Race Australia starts September 8th. I mean, we're not covering it full time or anything. I just wanted to mention that if you like Amazing Race, that is starting soon. Just lots of fun stuff there, and looking forward to the rest of the season.
And I wouldn't say we're not covering it, you know. We might be covering it a little tiny bit. We might be joining some other podcasts here and there to talk about it, to dip in and out, even if it's not our regular full-time gig, because I have a feeling I'm going to be pretty swamped this fall talking about Big Brother, which not my number one choice, but I'm kind of locked in at this point. So that's where I'll be. And I guess thank you to everybody else out there who's listening and calling in and leaving us notes. And thanks to everybody behind the scenes who helps put this together. And of course, we will see you next week.
This is RHAP. We know reality TV.